I saw a very nice article in the Go Local magazine. I think they called you the Queen of Pesto or something like that.
Yes, that was the editor, Andrea.
In the article. So I thought, well, if she's the Queen of Pesto, I need to talk to her. So from what I gather, you weren't always a pesto aficionado, but you have become one in the past, like 3, 4, 5 years?
Yes, I created Once Upon a Pesto in 2016 when I was working at Rodale at the time, and that's a publishing company that during that time was publishing magazines like Men's Health Magazine, Runner's World. But they also did a lot of cookbooks and other books. And
are you a cookbook lover?
I love cookbooks. If I'm going to be reading something, it's likely something with recipes and, lots of pictures and excitement.
Well, my knowledge of pesto is quite limited. So I know it's made from basil and olive oil and I think garlic, salt and pepper, that sort of thing. And it's kind of this crushed together mixture that oftentimes is mixed in with like hot pasta and sort of becomes the sauce for pasta. But that's the sum total of pesto in my world. And candidly, I'm not a huge fan of basil, so I'm not a big lover of basil pesto. But I am fascinated by the just variety of recipes you have come up with for other non-basil pestos.
Yes, thank you for that compliment. I love how you gave your insight into pesto, because that's what the majority of people think pesto is. And you hit the nail on the head with, the understanding that certain ingredients like basil, pine nuts, Parmesan, you mentioned garlic, salt, and pepper. But what I want to focus on is what you said in the second part, is that it's a crushed together sauce. And that's what pesto is in its true definition. It comes from an Italian verb that means to crush or to grind. So with that in mind, it's a process and not specific ingredients. So say you don't like basil like yourself, or say you have a nut allergy. You can customize the ingredients to your palate, your food sensitivities and allergies. As long as you're using that same process, the result is still going to be pesto.
And is it fair to say that this originated in Italy, or is it even older than Italian culture?
It's older than Italian culture, but the roots trace back to the Roman days when they used to make a sauce called moratum. And that also, when you think of mortar and pestle, moratum and pesto, do those sound exactly like mortar and pestle?
Yes.
Yes. So those derivative words tie back to that ancient process when they used, that was what the tool they had. They didn't have the convenience of food processors and blenders like we have today. So what they used to make the sauce was a mortar and pestle, and crushing together nuts, garlic. Those were the basic ingredients used then. And then when you think of the Italian area in the northwest region called Liguria, in the towns that make up the Cinque Terre, which means five lands, that is where basil pesto took its roots, because in that climate, on that seaside, those seaside villages, basil grew so well in the soil in that climate, and they wanted to use it and not let it go to waste. And so what did they do? They made it into pesto.
That is kind of that necessity is the mother of invention. At that time, those folks had all this basil, and of course, waste not, want not, another famous expression. They had to figure out what to do with all this pesto, with all this basil.
Right.
Did you fall into Once Upon a Pesto and becoming the pesto queen because you always loved pesto, or just, by happenstance learning about the culture when you were, visiting Italy? How did that come to be?
I probably would not have touched pesto as a young kid. I had my particular foods and have only expanded that palate going, later in high school, especially in college, and then after that, living on my own. But it was during my study abroad experience that I spent 4 months in central Italy and traveled to all the 20 regions and really got immersed into the culture, into the language, and discovered things like pesto. And then shortly after I graduated from college at Penn State, my first job was at a teen travel company where I, again, returned to Italy. And so those experiences, getting to know the culture, were definitely inspiration for Once Upon a Pesto.
And from there, you began just like so many people, experimenting with different ingredients and pairing things and seeing if it tasted good?
Yeah, I have a couple literary sources of inspiration for Once Upon a Pesto, and one of those is the Flavor Bible. It is kind of like a thesaurus. You look up any ingredient, you name it, and it then lists out different ingredients that pair really, really well with it, pair good with it. And so that was how I formulated some of my recipes based on, what foods pair well with each other, and then tying, a certain ingredient to a certain culture or country to make it an experience. I got to witness firsthand so many cultures, and I wanted to create something that would then allow others to do that without the need to have a passport or book a flight or physically travel anywhere.
Now, when I think of, the mortar and pestle and that whole process, I think of you're grinding something to a pulp. You're really pulverizing it. Is that the what's going on with any of the pestos that you are creating?
Yes, and that process, it's really neat when you get into the science of it, and not having the science or chemistry background, professional background, I just, kind of layman's terms would describe it as breaking down the different bonds within ingredients in a way that doesn't happen in a blender. So both methods are possible to make pesto, but if you would make the same kind of pesto side by side, one in a blender, one in a mortar and pestle, you might taste a little bit different result because of the way that mortar and pestle, think of two rocks just crushing down sand in between those two surfaces versus spinning it around sharp blades in a circle. It's gonna change the bond, the chemical bond in each of the ingredients.
So what is your favorite pesto? Is it the traditional basil pesto?
I would say you can't go wrong with that, but I think there are so many. I have 40 on my website, and 40 will be featured in the cookbook once that publishes. So it's so hard to choose just one. I have some sweet ones, some savory ones, but if I had to narrow it down to one in each category, for the savory category, I would say the caper pesto or the broccoli pesto. Caper is inspired by Cyprus. It's an island in Europe, or the broccoli pesto is inspired by France. And then for the sweet category, I would say the mango pesto. It has mascarpone cheese and mint, fresh mint, and that's inspired by Thailand.
So what's the response been, let's say, from the culinary community? Because you said you're not a chef by trade.
Fantastic question. I, through my Instagram account, have been engaging with people all over the world, and some that are, professional chefs. And one of those is a chef who created a TV show for Peacock that's similar style to Anthony Bourdain's show No Reservations, and, getting to know the area and the locals, and he's up in the Northeast United States, and recently has been in production with larger celebrities doing cooking shows. His concept is making everything from scratch. And when I connected with him, it was just so neat because all my recipes are handmade. It's not going to the store and buying jarred pesto. And so we immediately connected over that similarity. And he has been an incredible support, just offering advice, encouragement, always supporting and commenting on posts and things like that. So it's been a real rewarding experience in that sense.
Are you looking to branch out into other food groups? Maybe not pesto per se, but, obviously with your love of cooking and culinary experimentation, do you want to, at some point, is pesto going to come to an end and you're going to move on to a different food group or something?
If my crystal ball is correct, my plan is to release the first cookbook, and then a second cookbook sequel would have 40 additional countries, 40 additional pestos, each, with a specific ingredient that's significant to the country. So continuing on that same idea and exploring other places and other ingredients.
Well, it sounds fantastic, and as I said, looking through your recipes, I loved so many of them. I love butternut squash, and I saw some some recipes there, but I love the fact, and you said it at the beginning, if you've got a nut allergy, then you don't have to put the nuts in, or if you don't like this or you don't like that. I've got the nut allergy, and I don't like basil, so I'm right there.
There's so many options for you still.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. It is such a great homegrown story. Here you are, central Pennsylvania, and you're traveling the world, and you're making pesto and making friends, and really, bridging cultures, which is an important thing to do as well. When is the cookbook expected to come out?
We are currently on the timeline of the beginning of 2023.
All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I'm sure it's going to be a huge success, and you're probably going to be going on the Today Show and Good Morning America because, the pesto queen, you've got to get out there. The world is your kingdom.
And Hershey. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the other thing. You need to make a chocolate pesto, or have you done that?
Ooh. I have made, it's not on the website, but I did make a pesto that's using dates and chocolate.
Yum. That sounds like it would be delicious over ice cream.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Yeah, or mixed in, if you make ice cream, mix that in to make the ice cream, It sounds fantastic. All of your recipes sound fantastic.
Thank you.
And I'm so impressed. The website is beautiful, by the way, and I did notice in your bio that you kind of have done some food styling. Would that be the way to term it?
Yeah, so everything on my website, I developed the recipes, made them, photographed them, and created all of the content. So I, have to give credit there to Penn State and my college experience as a photography and photojournalism major. Being able to apply those skills to Once Upon a Pesto it's incredible to be able to use that.
Well, the website is beautiful. I mean, if the pesto thing doesn't work out, you've got a bright future ahead of you as a website creator. Because the website is beautiful. It is so user-friendly, and the photography is just beautiful. It truly is.
Thank you.
So, again, best of luck to you, Jessica Pacholski. Pesto, onceuponapesto.com is the website, and I imagine, is that also going to be the title of the cookbook?
You got it.
Okay. Well, we'll look for that early next year at some point, and when you're on your pesto tour, maybe you can make a stop here in Lebanon. We'd love to have you.
That sounds fantastic.